but I do feel like their sort of story together shaped both of them so much as people. And as an Italian, this is the bit probably where I start getting choked up, where I think about it a lot, is just that Euros win. It really felt like something being shared by those two as people, and their players as people who got to share it. I mean, Vialli was there as a head of delegation, which is this sort of slightly ambiguous role where you're an ambassador and you're doing a bit of sort of shaking hands and meeting people, but part of it is just sort of being helpful and being a father figure to the team. But I really felt like, and this calls back a bit to one of the things we talked about during the World Cup podcast, Mina, when we talked about the Morocco team and the mothers there. I think that there was something so universal about that story with Mancini and Vialli, that thing of, you know what, when you're doing something that you love with your best friend and it's just fun. That was what I felt during that Euros. That was what sort of touched me the most, I think. And yeah, I suppose, as awful as it is that this sort of wonderful man has lost his life at 58 years old, at least he did sort of, he never liked to talk about it as a battle. He always said he was walking with a travel companion, an unwanted travel companion in cancer, but at least they were able to walk that walk long enough that he got to have that be one of his last piece of his legacy as well. I'm sorry, Mina, I'm starting to cry, and I think I'm making you cry as well, and I'm sorry. It's just going to be that should show. Sorry, everyone listening. It's hard to talk about things sometimes.
It sounds so. I don't want to just focus on the fact that he was this. During the Euro 2020, it was like all you love in sport is that you identify with things.
Mm.
It's kind of like why we loved Morocco and the mums. It's just so human, right? You love that. And in Euro 2020, I couldn't bear to watch the penalties, and neither could he. So you felt like he was like with his turning his back because he just couldn't.
Sorry, don't know how this will come across as a recording. It's quite difficult for both of us at the moment. We're just sort of we're sad. And
yeah, when they lost
the
Champions League, it wasn't called that. Was it called? I don't even remember. Yeah, thank you. And he said that afterwards that people said, "Oh, it's not really manly to cry," and he's like, "Well, we sort of waited for everyone to go, and then me and Roberto Mancini just really like let it all go and just started crying for hours, And it was a time when football was very much like, even back then, even the 80s and 90s, and not that long ago, football was very like almost toxic masculinity, And in between that, you had him always talk about his feelings. He was always very open about what mattered and what was emotional. And he used to say, when I was younger and I would wear the earring and dye my hair, I just wanted to live. I was young. I was winning. I wanted to live outside of the box. And then it was different when I would have kids and I got married, and then I'd have to be this responsible man. And he really was like, everything was about how he was going to be better, how he was going to write letters that would last with his two daughters. And everything he spoke of sounded like poetry, like one thing he said with Juventus is you have to train as if you've never won a game and you have to play as if you've never lost one. And everything he said just came across as a poem.